He was demonstrating a simple move in karate class. The Special Forces soldier's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a defensive technique. This was an attack move that could kill in seconds. Welcome to Delta Files. Before we dive into this powerful story of hidden skills, deadly knowledge, and unexpected revelation, tell me in the comments where you're watching from today, and if you believe stories like this need to be remembered, hit that subscribe button. Peaceful Dragon Martial Arts Academy had served the suburban community of Riverside, California for 8 years. Located in a strip mall between a sandwich shop and a dry cleaner, it was the kind of place where parents sent their kids to learn discipline, confidence, and self-defense. Sensei Michael Tanaka ran traditional classes focused on respect, control, and personal development. Staff Sergeant Jake Morrison had recently returned from his 4th deployment with Army Special Forces. While transitioning back to civilian life, his therapist recommended martial arts as a way to channel combat stress into positive physical activity. The Peaceful Dragon Academy was conveniently located and had good reviews for helping veterans. Michael was exactly what Jake expected from a civilian martial arts instructor. Calm demeanor, traditional uniform, emphasis on philosophy and technique over aggression. The classes were family-friendly, focused on personal growth rather than combat effectiveness. Until Tuesday evening changed everything. Jake was attending an intermediate class with about 12 other students, mostly adults looking for fitness and stress relief. Michael was demonstrating a basic defensive technique against a wrist grab. When someone grabs your wrist, Michael explained to the class, the natural response is to pull away, but that's not always effective. Michael had one of the students grab his wrist tightly. Instead, we use leverage and precise movement to break the hold. What happened next made Jake's blood freeze. Michael executed a technique that Jake recognized immediately, but it wasn't the civilian self-defense version. Michael had demonstrated the lethal combat variant, a move designed to dislocate the attacker's shoulder, break their elbow, and drive bone fragments into major arteries. The student released Michael's wrist and stepped back, unaware they just witnessed a killing technique disguised as basic self-defense. "See how simple that is?" Michael said to the class. "Control and precision, not force." But Jake knew better. He'd learned that exact technique during classified Special Forces training. It was part of a series of moves designed for silent elimination of enemy combatants. Jake watched Michael more carefully for the rest of the class. Every technique Michael demonstrated had 2 versions. The safe civilian variant he taught the class, and the lethal military version he himself was performing. When Michael showed a simple escape from a chokehold, Jake recognized it as a technique for crushing an attacker's trachea. When Michael demonstrated a defensive elbow strike, Jake saw the killing blow that could drive cartilage into an opponent's brain. When Michael taught a basic leg sweep, Jake identified the combat version designed to snap an enemy's knee and sever their femoral artery. After class, Jake approached Michael privately. "Sensei, can I ask about your background?" "Of course. I've been practicing martial arts for 25 years, teaching for 8. Where did you learn those techniques?" Michael's expression became more guarded. "Various schools, seminars, traditional training." Jake decided to be direct. "The wrist escape you demonstrated tonight. Where did you really learn that?" Michael studied Jake's face carefully. "What makes you think I learned it somewhere specific?" "Because I learned the same technique at Fort Bragg, from Special Forces instructors, and the version you demonstrated isn't taught in civilian schools." The air between them shifted. Michael's casual demeanor disappeared, replaced by the alert posture Jake recognized in fellow combat veterans. "You're military," Michael said quietly. "Special Forces, just returned from Afghanistan. And you're not just a martial arts teacher." Michael was quiet for a long moment, then made a decision. "Not here, too public." They walked to Michael's office behind the training area. Michael checked that they were alone before speaking. "Force Reconnaissance Marine, 1998 to 2010. Specialized in close-quarters combat and silent elimination techniques." Jake's mind raced. Force Recon Marines were elite special operations forces, trained in the most advanced hand-to-hand combat techniques in the military. Why civilian martial arts? "Because after 12 years of killing people, I wanted to teach people how to protect themselves without becoming killers." "But you're still teaching lethal techniques." Michael shook his head. "I'm teaching modified versions, safe techniques that look like dangerous ones. The students learn effective self-defense without learning how to commit murder." Jake examined the training area with new understanding. Michael had created a system for teaching combat-effective techniques while removing their lethal applications. "How do you separate the deadly elements?" "Angle modifications, targeting adjustments, force limitations. A technique that would crush someone's windpipe becomes a technique that creates enough pressure to escape. Same basic movement, completely different outcome. Jake was impressed. Michael had found a way to use his military training to help civilians without creating dangerous fighters. Why hide your background? Michael's expression grew serious. Because parents don't want their children learning martial arts from someone who's killed dozens of people in combat. They want a peaceful teacher who helps kids build confidence. But you could advertise your military experience. Many people respect veteran instructors. Jake, there's a difference between being a veteran and being what I was. Force Recon Marines don't just serve their country, we do things that never make official reports. Jake understood. Michael had been involved in classified operations that required skills civilians couldn't comprehend. Do you miss the real combat applications? Michael looked around his peaceful training facility. Every technique I teach here could easily be converted back to its lethal form. But I've spent 8 years proving to myself that these hands can create discipline and confidence instead of death. What about other students? Has anyone else recognized your techniques? You're the first with enough training to identify the original applications. Most people see basic self-defense. You see combat methodology. Jake spent the next month attending Michael's classes with new perspective. He watched Michael carefully guide students through techniques that built strength and confidence while deliberately avoiding anything that could cause serious harm. You know, Jake told Michael after a particularly good class, "You might be the best martial arts instructor I've ever seen." Why? Because you know exactly how dangerous these techniques can be, so you teach people to be strong without being dangerous. Michael smiled. That's the point. Real strength is knowing you could hurt someone and choosing not to. 3 months later, Jake had become Michael's assistant instructor, helping other veterans transition their combat skills into positive civilian applications. Sensei, one of the younger students asked Michael during class, "How did you get so good at martial arts?" Michael glanced at Jake before answering. Practice, respect, and understanding that the goal isn't to become dangerous, it's to become safe. After class, Jake asked Michael about his long-term plans. Are you going to keep hiding your background forever? Michael considered the question. I'm not hiding it, I'm using it responsibly. The students don't need to know I could kill everyone in this room in under 60 seconds. They need to know I can teach them to protect themselves and their families. But don't you think your military experience could inspire people? My military experience taught me that the most important victory is the fight you never have to have. Now I ask you, have you ever learned from an instructor whose skills seemed too advanced for civilian training? Someone whose techniques suggested knowledge that went far beyond normal teaching credentials? Share your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes the best teachers are those who've seen the worst applications of their skills and choose to create something better. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, subscribe, share, and help us honor those who transform their most dangerous knowledge into tools for peace and protection.